Hey everyone, I wanted to do a very quick E3 Day 2 wrap up, going over some of the biggest reveals and the most relevant information that we got in today's massive E3 presentation that went over Microsoft's big E3 event, the Square Enix E3 presentation, and of course, the PC gaming show and future game show. So right out of the gate, we got a lot of things to go over, and I'm gonna make sure to just cover the most important things. And Microsoft brought it this year. A lot of the times they usually just kind of end up feeling lackluster, but this time it was nothing of the sort. They brought in the big guns and they had a lot of games to show. Now, are any of these games coming out anytime soon? Some of them, sure. But I think the biggest takeaway here is that, of course, probably the biggest real winner is Game Pass. And if you have Game Pass, you won today because you're getting a lot of free games included in your subscription. The point is that Game Pass is just kind of like a no-brainer. It already was, and it just became an even more emphasis if you do own an Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, or even an Xbox One X for that matter. They showed off Halo Infinite, which is the B-roll that you're probably seeing right now. It is obviously an Xbox exclusive. It is coming to PC, of course. Day one on Game Pass, obviously. Free online multiplayer, which is included, and is releasing holiday 2021. So we now know at the very least when we're supposed to be playing this game that a lot of people have just been waiting eagerly for a very long time. They spoke about Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, which is set to launch on April 28th of next year, 2022. It will be a Game Pass Day 1 game, and it is also a timed exclusive, meaning that it's most likely coming to PlayStation 5 at some point in the future. This is one of those narrative, dark first-person shooter types that just looks incredible. They also touched upon Back 4 Blood, coming to Game Pass Day 1 on October 12th. This is one of those, I believe, Left 4 Dead types. It's actually, I believe, by some of the developers from that game, that it just looks fantastic. It was one of those games that when it was officially revealed, it was already on my radar as it was, and now it's just coming to Game Pass, so automatically, day one, I'm going to be playing this. You should definitely check it out. I think the biggest surprise, for everyone was the fact that Starfield was the show opener. I don't think anyone would have predicted that. But we now know that it's set to launch on November 11th. It will be an Xbox console exclusive. Obviously, it's coming to PC as well. And of course, it's also on Game Pass. You're going to be hearing me say this a lot. Day one on Game Pass for sure. So Starfield basically is the biggest thing that Bethesda has going on right now. But there's that question of like, hey, are they actually going to nail it? Is the gameplay going to be solid? We saw a lot of environmental shots. We didn't necessarily get to see that fluid gameplay shot that we would be expecting to see. So hopefully in the near future, they show us a little bit more of that actual gameplay and that minute-to-minute experience. They also had a very quick teaser trailer, I guess, for the Outer Worlds 2. This is a Game Pass Day 1 game and also a console exclusive for Xbox and also coming to PC, of course. The trailer was so ridiculously over-the-top funny because it's just so over-the-top sarcastic that it was right up my alley. They also showed off this brand new IP called Contraband. This is also a Game Pass Day 1 exclusive for Xbox, coming to PC as well. This Contraband game is just a CGI trailer. It looks interesting, but other than that, it's hard to say. Whenever they actually show us gameplay, you can definitely get excited for that. What they did show gameplay for was Forza Horizon 5, which I think this is actually the very first time they actually mentioned this game. We do know that there's a Forza Motorsport in the works. They actually alluded to it at the end of the trailer, but this is actually the first time that they spoke about Forza Horizon 5. It is coming on November 9th, so it is this year. Obviously, day one on Game Pass, Xbox exclusive, all of that goodness. But yeah, man, this looks interesting. This looks so good. It's actually based in Mexico. They showed off a ton of gameplay, which is actually what you're seeing right now. Forza Horizon 4 was easily the showcase game when I purchased my Xbox One X a couple of years ago, and I played that to death. So this game just coming out before the end of the year, fantastic. The fact that Microsoft has already peppered in these release dates from like November 9th of 2021 with Forza Horizon 5 to November 11th, 2022 with Starfield, just such a massive gap of release dates that they're just now going to start to fill in. It's an interesting strategy that I don't necessarily think other publishers have done in the past, and definitely seems like Microsoft has a lot of things. You will probably see at some point in this video the image of all the Game Pass games that they announced and the things, just how they're going to fill up that calendar year with just release after release on Game Pass, which is just so interesting to see that direct approach. Another reveal that we got, which is the first look for this game, is A Plague Tale Requiem. And lastly, a brand new IP that they showed off, which is called Redfall, coming in summer of 2022. Game Pass Day 1, Xbox exclusive, brand new IP. So they did spend a little bit of time speaking about that, but all these showed off was just a lot of just 4 characters hanging out and killing like vampires and stuff. It was all CGI, no actual gameplay. So again, it's one of those where like until they show gameplay, you can get excited, but until then it's just CGI, so it is what it is. I'm very hesitant to get excited about CGI trailers. And if that wasn't enough, they still spoke about obviously the first gameplay look for Battlefield 2042, which is set to launch on October 22nd. I made a quick video about it going over some of the details that might have been glossed over in that E3 presentation that they showed off. It was really interesting that we actually got to see some of the diversity of the maps and those big storms and events that are actually going to take place in the middle of battle, which is really cool. Those just showed off some of like the specialists and perks, which is like probably something that's really going to change the way that people are actually going to play the game. So a couple of quick hits as well for Game Pass that, you know, again, Game Pass, big winner. Microsoft Flight Simulator coming July 22nd. This is next month. Xbox console launch is finally coming to Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S. Yakuza Like a Dragon is coming to Game Pass, and it's actually available today. So you can go ahead and check that and download that. If for some reason you missed out on Yakuza already, that game is so much fun. And Hades is coming out on Game Pass on August 13th. This is a game that I played on Nintendo Switch. It is amazing. It runs extremely well on Switch. I'm sure on Xbox is going to be fantastic. Probably 120 frames if they could even actually pull that off. I don't know how combat is going to work on 120 frames because that game is extremely fast already. But yeah, that's such a good game to get on Game Pass that it's like a no-brainer. And then on top of that, they announced 10 more Bethesda games coming to Game Pass, like the original Fallout, Doom Eternal, Skyrim, which for some reason wasn't already on Game Pass. So yeah, just if you have Game Pass, you are a winner. Plain and simple. It's just know that going in. And the truth of the matter is, it's going to be extremely hard for anyone to have a presentation better than what Microsoft did today. I'm the furthest thing from a Microsoft fanboy, but you have to respect game, and they nailed it. They just showed off game after game after game, and they hit it out of the park. It's going to be extremely hard for anyone to top this, and that includes Nintendo showing Breath of the Wild 2. So, you know, if they actually nail that, that'd be great, but that's just one game compared to the slew of titles Microsoft put forth. Then we had the Square Enix presentation, which was very hit and miss. And the game that's going to get a lot more eyes and more conversation is Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. This is a 2022 release. It's coming across gens, so just about PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, PC, all of that. There's talk of also a PlayStation 5 demo going up either later today or before the 24th of June, something along those lines. I wasn't necessarily clear on that. But yeah, this is the original game that leaked a couple of weeks ago that is like a Final Fantasy Dark Souls-esque action game. It looks very grim, it looks very dark. It is a take on the very first Final Fantasy. And it looks interesting, but it's like, you know, we'll have to see way more of it to actually have a good take on it. It is coming out next year, so they do have some time to work on it, but visually it looks fine. It looks dark. It looks, again, grim, but it is what it is. It's a Final Fantasy game with more action, as if the last one wasn't already actiony enough. And speaking of Final Fantasy, they showed off the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 collection. This is a game that I spoke about yesterday that was highly anticipated for me because I was looking forward to it. And it turns out that it's just coming to mobile and Steam, which is a disaster. I don't necessarily feel like playing this on PC because, again, old school JRPGs is not something that you want to play on a PC. And on mobile, it's like, no thank you. So just no. What a disaster. Couldn't they put this on Switch or PlayStation 4 or something? Whatever, man. Such a bummer. They did show off Babylon's Fall, which is, again, another downer. It is cross-gen as well on PC. Just about everything Square Enix is doing is cross-gen. But the real bummer for this one is that it's a live service game. That's just not going to cut it. They reworked the art completely. This game, I encourage you, again, highly encourage you. And people, I'm sure some YouTubers are going to do this. They're going to take the old trailer and they're going to put the new trailer side to side and they're going to show it off. and you'll see the difference. Visually, the old game looked way better and way more dark. It actually looked like a Dark Souls type game. And now it looks very aesthetically, polygonally, and just weird and different. Not bad by any means, but it just looks different. With the context that is now also a live service game, which is something that Square Enix already did with the Marvel's Avengers game, and that didn't necessarily work out too well. Apparently it sold well, but like player retention isn't great in that game, so for them to try this with Babylon's Fall, it's just kind of like a bummer. It really is. I guess another thing that also leaked, but they spoke about it and they showed off at great length. They were very proud to show off this game, which was Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. Is coming on October 26th, cross-gen and PC as well. And yeah, they really went ham on this game. They spoke about it at length, even a post-presentation interview as well. And this just feels like another one of those action games with just like dialogue choices and options. They're speaking about this being a game that's referential to the comic books, but again, the characters don't necessarily look like the actual ones from the movie, which I guess now begs the question, did the movies actually ruin their chances of actually making a good, proper Marvel game? Because think about it, with the Marvel's Avengers game, the real criticism towards that game wasn't necessarily the gameplay, although it was boring towards the end game part. It was just the way the characters looked. With this Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game, also the biggest criticism is how the characters look and how they don't necessarily look like the ones from the movies. So you think that maybe the ones from the movies were like the actual different characters, the ones that were supposed to be looking different instead of the actual game versions, because the characters from the game actually look like the comic books. Like they went at great lengths explaining and trying to convince people like, hey, no, the way the Guardians of the Galaxy looked originally back in the comic books look exactly how they do in this game. But for some reason, no one's gonna care because they remember the movie with Star-Lord and all those other characters. So they're not necessarily interested in the comic book. And I feel like now the movies kind of ruined it for them. It's gonna be something tough that they're gonna have to walk back to be able to ever fix, to be able to get on players' good side if they actually keep making these type of games. But other than that, of course, the Future Game Show and PC Gaming Show had a lot of things to go over. I'm not necessarily going to hit them up here because it's just way too much to cover, and a lot of it was just smaller scale games, not necessarily anything over the top. But it is worth noting that there were a lot of indie things, a lot of, especially in the PC Gaming Show, a lot of very PC centric games that you should probably check out if you want to like look into more. But as console players, there wasn't necessarily anything all that appealing. But that's going to be it for this video. I know it was a lengthy one and I try to get basically to just the biggest things that were worth talking about. I'll be coming back tomorrow with a day 3 wrap up as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.